Okay, welcome to a super fun episode of Somatic Self-Love and Superfoods. This one is called Nature, Nervous System, and Nutrition with the lovely Alison Elsberry. Welcome.
Thank you, Anna. It's an honor
So
to be here.
yeah, it's such an honor to have you. I'm really excited for this conversation. Before we dive in, let's tell people who aren't familiar with you who you are. So
Mhm.
Alison is a former pediatric occupational therapist and craniosacral therapist, and is a current student of pre and perinatal psychology who assists babies, children, and their families to flourish in love by deepening the connection to their body, to nature, and the divine. She's the creator of Embodied Brilliance and Brilliant and Barefoot, which are unique learning pathways that nurture a child's awareness of their body so they have a healthy foundation to flourish with their gifts and live as their true radiant self in physical form. Alison is often lovingly referred to as a baby or child soul whisperer and a translator of invisible imprints, helping to bridge the gap of communication and consciousness between awakened parents and this next generation of beautiful and brilliant souls. With Mother Mary by her side, she offers a beautiful way to nourish the sacred relationship between a child's soul and body, all so they stay connected to the source of who they are and thrive in more love and connection as a beautiful, healthy, divine human. That's gorgeous.
It's always so fun to, hear it back.
Hear how wonderful.
Yeah.
And in this episode specifically, we're not directly going to be talking about children, although that is her specialty, but what she really, really helps with is connecting us to nature and the nervous system, specifically in children, but this actually applies to everyone. And given that I generally help adults, I am talking to her today about adults, although this absolutely applies to your sweet little ones just as much, if not more so, than we're just going to be talking about it in general spirits and bodies, general adult humans. And so, yeah, nature, nervous system, and nutrition, what on earth could that possibly have in common? What tell us about what the three of those things, how they are related? What does that even mean?
So, what's so interesting as you were just talking about how, my specialty are babies and children, families, yours are adults. That intersection is that we all have our own inner child, right? And normally our first connection of nature, nervous system, nutrition gets patterned from the time that we're really young. So what we're going to be talking about is completely relevant to all ages. And so I love that. So why all of this is important and how it all ties in, a great place to start is really about what happens to our body's physiology, our nervous system, when we actually get to be in nature. So think about one of your most favorite places in nature. Maybe it's the beach. Maybe it's a forest. Maybe it's mud between your toes. Maybe it's just sitting in the sun in your garden. But if you just kind of call that to mind in this moment, just kind of notice what your body automatically starts to do.
It relaxes.
Yeah. And that's exactly what our nervous system does in nature. Our body, our nervous system, nature is what I like to call truly a match made in heaven. And physiologically, what really happens is when we step outside and we're among the air, the elements, hear birds chirping, the wind on our skin, or feeling our bare feet on the grass, our energy has the opportunity to come back into our body and ground. And then something else interesting happens. Our eyes relax a little bit further behind their sockets. We start to relax behind our ears. Our breathing changes. Our peripheral vision opens up. Because so often when we're not in nature, our nervous system will tend to be really hyper focused, almost like an arrow trying to hit a target, which really kind of closes everything in like this, which makes things hyper vigilant, hyper focused, and kind of kicks up sometimes feelings of anxiety, or it's just like really wound up and it's hard to kind of decompress from that. And so when we're out in nature, that softens and our peripheral vision opens up. And what all of those physiological responses do, it happens with a lot without our conscious awareness or knowing. And what happens is that signals safety to our body, which then relaxes our electrical impulses, which is our nervous system, which helps us be more present in our body, which is what we want, because when we're out in nature, it grows our capacity to help us be present. And the more we can grow our capacity to be present with ourselves, the more regulated we feel. Regulated just simply meaning more balanced, stable, present. And we can tap into the resource that's literally right at our fingertips and right under our feet. And that's important for all of us as adults in this world today, to learn how to also resource outside of ourselves into a well of something bigger, which is really what the earth is here to provide us with.
That's beautiful and so true. And what the heck does that have to do with nutrition?
Yeah. Great question, because a lot of people are like, wow, okay, so
That's great and
yeah,
true. And I don't see any relationship to that and nutrition.
yeah. So if you're one of those people that's curious and asking about it in that moment or in this moment, something really amazing happens. There's an opportunity when our body is connecting with nature. We have the opportunity to bring nature internal into the body through the mouth. So it's actually where nature and our body or our nervous system intersect. And it's one of the places where, with the food that we choose to put into our body, directly can heal, nurture, and nourish our nervous system and deepen our connection to nature so that we actually feel better in our bodies. So if you really think about the connection between nature and your nervous system that I just described, and then the ability then to actually take in something from nature while you're even standing outside in nature, your body's getting it externally and energetically, and also then internally, which is really, really powerful. Because with everything going on in the world right now, one of the things that we can put our focus and intention on, especially if things are feeling chaotic, overwhelming, or out of control, we have every intention and control over what we choose to put in our body. And it can actually take us deeper into connecting with nature and the divine or not.
So this is sort of, I mean, we've all heard eat healthy to fuel your body's your temple, all the things that, make logical sense of, what you put in your body, what you eat is what you are. But this actually takes it to another level, not just eating healthy foods because that creates a healthy body, like the 1 + 1 = 2. This feels like it takes it to a different and like deeper step of actually using food and whole foods from nature as a way to connect with nature and therefore bring that facilitation of what nature provides for our nervous system, we can do that through food, not just being in nature.
That's right. That's 100% correct. And then to take it one step further from there, what's so beautiful about that relationship between, like I was saying, match made in heaven, between our body, our nervous system, and nature, is that we are nature, and nature is reflecting back to us our true nature. So when we're eating something or choosing to put into our mouth, into our body, something that is a direct reflection of who we are, which is light, that psychically imprints and psychologically imprints upon our own self-value and worth, which again is very healing to the nervous system and to our digestive system.
And so to make it very real and tangible, what kinds of things are we talking about? Like when you envisioned standing in nature and eating from nature, I'm thinking of like, going out and picking an apple off our tree, which I love doing, and just standing there and eating it and thanking the tree and feeling the direct energy of the tree and the sun in my body. But what else? I mean, what kinds of things would this relate to? Obviously, we're not talking about a bag of Doritos.
Correct.
That is not nature. That is
right.
chemically processed poison.
Yeah. So we're talking about things that are a true reflection of nature, that are pure, whole, organic, mineral rich, regeneratively grown, nutrient dense. And one of the best sources of this that I've personally found that has deepened and heightened and enlivened the sense of connection between my body and nature and my nervous system has been through Purium superfoods. And superfoods meaning they have a very high antioxidant ratio to caloric intake. So what you're getting is like everything pure. And so when I personally think about standing outside, I'm eating things that are also very recognizable. They haven't changed so much from their original form of how they were intended to be. Because then what that does is it gives us a reflection of our own authentic nature, and gives us the message that we don't have to change who we are in order to be here. And what I love about Purium's superfoods is that the way that they're grown, the way that they're formulated, being so pure, so organic, so authentic, live, raw, dehydrated, is that they're keeping the consciousness of how they were originally grown and prepared, so that their cellular structure matches and mirrors nature, which again then goes into our body and gives us that blessing.
So it sounds like the best things that will match our light are things grown with high consciousness, that obviously organic, not poisoned, not created in the standard big ag way. So things that we're growing ourselves, things that, we have a direct farmer relationship with, whether it's from the farmer's market or a CSA, somebody that you know and trust. So creating these relationships and creating a relationship directly as much as you can grow it, whether it's in a pot on your porch or if it's in your garden, things that are actually reflecting what something would be. So a head of broccoli and lettuce and kale and green beans and an apple from the tree and fruit that you pick and berries that you pick. In addition to then, because most of us don't live in a situation where we can grow all of our own food, ideally that is where we will be in, I hope less than 10 years, we're growing most of our own. That's just not the situation that we're in this moment. As much as we can grow, we do. And it's lovely and wonderful. And so for then those things that we aren't able to grow, or things that I may not have access to, like spirulina is one of my favorite things. And like kamut, I don't have an ancient wheatgrass blend. I suppose I could get one. But you know what's easier for me? Ordering it from Purium. So like using these companies like another of my favorite companies is 1 Degree, for things like oats and flours. They work directly with farmers, just like Purium does, to make sure they're glyphosate free, that they're growing in a really highly conscious way. And we know, Alice and I are both super fans of Purium and partnered with Purium. We've both been using them for years. And we know and trust and understand the quality and the dedication to quality and the real foodness. So as much as we can possibly eat from things that are real, whole, organic, regeneratively grown, but even upping the ante a bit is this high consciousness, this creating and eating food that matches the light that we are. So that would be things that are specifically blessed. And obviously you can bless your food before you eat it, which absolutely do. And also though, as you're growing your garden and as you're working with farmers and as you're working with companies and finding the companies that do this, finding people who really truly care. And that is what I've been on a mission to do, is to find these gems, because it feels like it matters now more than it ever has. And like, we're learning more about like what you're talking about, where it's not just that it's healthy. It's not just that it's kale. It's that, is it grown regeneratively? Is it being rained down with, you know, polluted rainwater, or is it being watered like, you know, Purium waters a lot of their crops with like volcanic spring, just amazing, just really amazing things. So it sounds like matching the light of who we are and understanding who we are is now so important in our foods, because it then serves our own light.
Yes, and that's what nurtures the nervous system. That's what heals the nervous system, and that's what actually helps us feel better in our physical body. It's what anchors our light, because the more we eat light, the more amplifies our own light within, and the easier it is to feel better in our physical form. And I agree with you 100%. You know, growing your own food if you can, and really being conscious and intentional of how that's done. And I also find that because I work with a lot of families, the majority of the families I work with are either living in a spot or situation where they don't have time for that, or it's just not practical where they are location wise. So they are looking for easier solutions where they can get things, you know, delivered to their door. And especially if someone is doing really deep healing within their nervous system, although it can be very healing to be growing things and tending and getting your hands in the dirt and the earth, there are some moments where people's systems literally just need something easier and more accessible than that. And that's why I like having things ordered and shipped, you know, as well. But the more that you can recognize where your food comes from, who's growing it, the consciousness, the energy, the intention that it's grown with, and, you know, even to how things are packaged or how things are labeled, like even the pictures and the words that are used on labeling, all of that imprints energetically onto everything that we're eating. And again, when we take that in, that sends unconscious messages to our nervous system, whether or not we physically, emotionally, or mentally feel it in that moment. So more than ever, it is really important to really look at, can I identify where this food has come from? And when you look at it or you hold it, even like really feeling it. Like if I hold an apple from the tree versus an apple that might have been grown in a different way, you can really feel the difference. And also, when I get other things delivered to my doorstep, like Purium Superfoods, I can feel the light that's in those formulations and why that's so important, because then I'm like, of course I want to put that in my body. Anything that's directly from nature and has been handled with love in a very conscious and intentional way is going to be an automatic reflection of who I really am in my own body and in my own being. And again, that is so validating to the nervous system. Because the other thing about eating a reflection of who we are, and how eating things that are identifiable from nature and the consciousness and all of that, what's so important about that as well is the self-worth and the self-value piece, the self-love piece. And we feel that as a soul and a body connected to nature, connected to our higher wisdom. And the more that we can actually grow our capacity to be present with what that feels like in our body, you know, the more present we are to then be receptive to taking in more nourishment, which heals the nervous system and helps us feel better in our bodies.
That is lovely. And I really want to highlight two pieces. One, I think we often get into like this perfection mode because, you know, even myself as a healer, as someone who helps people with somatic healing and nervous system regulation and all the things, there are times when like I understand that it's best for me to go out into the garden and do the thing and pick the thing or grow the thing and just even sit there. And sometimes in a really dysregulated or really deep healing moment, like you mentioned, like when we are going through really deep pieces, sometimes I just can't. Like, I just can't. I know it would help me, and I just can't walk down there.
Yeah.
Oh, and or then bring it back up and make something into it that is food, that is nourishment. Like I just can't. Whereas like here I am, I take it out of the bag, I put it in my shaker bottle, I add water, and I shake it up and I drink it. And it is so easy. And it's my easy parents, but my parents' easy button, like here, sweet little spirit, have all the things your body needs to grow in one product, which is Epigenius Family, which is my go-to favorite for all parents, all families. One thing though, I think it would be helpful to talk about is that it's not necessarily recognizable, that something that comes in the mail, that something's in a package, like we have a lot about, oh, it's just supplements and powders and shakes. Like there are so many supplements and powders and shakes. And like, I've done them all, like, I mean, all of them. And, you know, over the last 30 years. And it's just sort of like, it feels like this thing over here that's like, oh yeah, that's just a thing over here. Why is Purium different than this thing over here? And like, how is that actually, you know, it doesn't seem recognizable as food or nature. Can you share a little bit about why this is different, why this actually is nature versus like the Garden of Life shake on the store, like,
Yeah, or the thing
shelf?
from Whole Foods, the protein powder on the shelf from
Right.
Whole Foods. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I love about the way that Purium approaches everything is it's the cleanest soil that things are grown in, which is one, very important. And the way that things are consciously handled, what I love is they handle things from seed to the growth, to the harvest, to all the manufacturing and distributing. That's really big. When a company is able to handle all aspects from start to finish, there's a lot less likelihood of something going wacky and out of balance there. And then the way that they test for things and keep things really pure is beyond anything that I have ever seen. And I'm like you, I've tried all the things over the last few decades, and you can really tell the difference. The other thing that I really like about Purium's way that they handle things are that when something is wind dried or sun dried, and the way that it's preserved, it's locking in that very light that we're talking about. it captures the phytonutrients in their splendor is what I would say, which then when we actually take that in, we're getting to eat a reflection of that full spectrum rainbow of light, which is what we are as well. Like we have all of that internally. And that's one of the most amazing preservation methods that I've actually ever come across, because the elements are actually preserving the food, which is nature right then and there. Like that is the elements infused into what's going to be put into your body. So it's locking in all of those phytonutrients and the full spectrum of all the greens, all the fruits, all the things, which makes it bioavailable to your body, because literally you're eating a reflection of yourself. And I've never seen a company that stands in that quality of really wanting to mirror that back, whether that's very obvious and conscious or not. We're really getting that on the unconscious and on the conscious and unconscious level. And then the other thing that I would say about the way that Purium develops and creates things is it's the formulations. It's the way that things are combined together very intentionally in very gentle dosages that brings about a full spectrum of nutrients in the body as well. It's not just one thing. It's anywhere from 4 to maybe 16 or more things together that work synergistically, which again is a real reflection of how our nervous system and our own physiological makeup actually is really designed to work. It's not just one thing working by itself. There's that real interconnectedness. So I really feel like what Purium's able to do with how they preserve their food and how they grow it from all the ways from start to finish, it is a true reflection of our own true nature of how our bodies literally work internally.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you share, so it sounds like, I mean, there's just so many facets of why this is important. Can you share anything else about the nervous system in particular, like why superfoods, why eating an apple directly out of the tree, or why Purium supports our nervous system? Because obviously I work with a lot of people, and there are a lot of people in the world right now really focused on nervous system healing, nervous system regulation. They're starting to understand how trauma is stored in the body and how nervous system is really the basis of everything. Like you can't heal anything out here until you get in here and start balancing your nervous system. It's literally the foundation of everything. Can you just give us a little bit more color on why and how nutrition plays a role in nervous system healing?
Mm-hmm. So it really links in beautifully through our digestive system. So when we're healing through things, and the way that the nervous system and nutrition can actually pair together is that if we're taking things into the body, like specific superfoods or very pure foods, what ends up happening is when our digestive system can actually receive gentle support, whether that's helping the microbiome, whether that's clearing all the not body-friendly things that have been stored in there, or whatever physiological or emotional trauma might be stored in our digestive system and in our gut, it starts to help regulate and rebalance all of our friendly chemical hormones known as serotonin and dopamine, your peaceful ones, and the ones that are your happy, feel-good things. And that can really contribute to the healing of the nervous system, because then that signals safety to the body. And when we signal safety to the body, our whole digestive system relaxes, known as the rest and digest state. A lot of people will talk about it with. And so that makes a really big impact then on how safe we're able to feel in our bodies to continue on with the healing that happens.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much. And one thing you mentioned is gut health. And I think that needs to be brought in here because I think that is one of the, and the more and more I learn about this, and the more I partner with Purium and learn and hear like people like Jeffrey Smith talk, and who is the, GMO glyphosate king of or
Mhm.
not non-GMO,
Yeah. Mhm.
non-glyphosate, non-poison, pro-organic. Um, um, the one thing that I think is being hugely missed as the factor of healing in all things in all ways is our gut health and
Mhm.
the connection between glyphosate, which is the poison found in Roundup that is now, I believe it's now in 75% of the foods that we eat. And even if you're growing your own garden, you can't control what's being sprayed in the air. You can't control what your neighbor is doing. You can't control what's in the rainwater. So we're being affected by this, even if we're super, super clean eaters. Like if we're being really diligent about everything we put in our bodies, you're still going to have glyphosate because you can't control all the things unless you live in the middle of nowhere, which that's wonderful if you do. I hope that
Mhm.
someday soon we all will be in that situation of little micro communities growing our
Yeah.
food, not with big ag, not with big pharma, but in the current state, the way things are, glyphosate is very, very prominent in all things, in lots of foods, and it literally destroys the balance in your gut. And what we're finding, and what many people have known for years, like Jeffrey Smith has been talking about this for decades, is the connection between your gut health and your overall health, and all of these stemmed off things like you know ADD, ADHD, like depression, even like really, heart disease, cancers, all of these things. Like there are so many things that stem from this lack of healthy gut and from this poison, which causes the leaky gut and all of these things. I think it is really understated that, gut health is health. And we are now learning
Mhm.
all the things that, most of your serotonin and dopamine are produced in
Mhm.
your gut. I didn't know that before.
Mhm. Mhm.
I did not know that. Like all the
Mhm.
things that we think are emotional issues or nervous system issues or immune system issues, endocrine, whatever it is, almost all of them are relating back to gut health. Do you want to say anything about that before we close out?
Yeah, something that really popped in here is that, when we talk about nervous system, like some people might have a concept of, oh, that's just the brain. But the nervous system is, in my humble opinion, all over the body, right? It's the circuitry, the electricity, the electrical impulses and programs that run throughout our body system. And that does not neglect the gut brain and the digestive system. And so the gut health piece tying into the health of the nervous system is really important, and why um, your connection to nature, and why uh, bringing those pieces online and understanding how nature and your nervous system work, that match made in heaven and what happens physiologically, and then bringing in the nutrition that supports all of that, you're getting to support yourself from multiple different angles, which is so important because you're a multidimensional being. So one thing isn't going to be a save it all. It has to be addressed from multiple different angles.
Mhm. I love that. Um, Wrapping up here, thank you so much for tying all this together, that nature, nervous system, and nutrition were a thing. What are your favorite? I mean, we both love so many Purium products, but what are your favorite? Like if you had to name like two or three favorite products for like nervous system healing, whatever it is, if you were gonna just say, okay, try these.
Ooh, it's so hard
I
to come
know.
up with just one. Well, okay, so I'll just talk about what's working in the present moment for me. And what I'm really loving is the super meal, because it has all of the greens, it has ancient grains, it has sea vegetables, it has adaptogens, it has your omegas, it kind of has everything in it. And what I personally feel right now when I'm drinking it is a complete, um, I feel like I'm getting a hug from the earth. It feels
I almost just
so incredibly nourishing right now. And that's one I love, because it's a way for people to get greens and adaptogens at the
Mhm.
same time to really refuel and replenish their energy while also feeling really balanced and grounded. I find it to be really soothing. And then I would also have to say, I just can't probably have a conversation without mentioning the super aminos, which are the cleanest source of vegan protein. And the reason I really like them is because I feel like both sides of my brain equally work very well together when I take them.
That's interesting. That's a new one. I have not heard that.
Yeah.
Um, I also am loving Super Meal right now. One of my clients actually made me try it 'cause she's like, this is the best thing ever because it was really helping her balance her own nervous system healing. I had recommended Purium because she was going through lots of body stuff and it was really helpful for her. That's what she chose because of all the things. And she's just like, oh, you must try it. I can just feel the nourishment. And I've been using it for months now. I really agree that it's just so nourishing. My second favorite thing, is their Kamut blend, which is their first
Yeah.
original Purium product, which I had not tried. And finally, several months ago, I tried it. It's an ancient Egyptian wheatgrass blend. And um, the farmer who grows it had a funny story about where he thinks it comes from. It's really great. Anyway, it's really helped me balance my cravings, especially to sugar. And what I'm realizing is like, oh, because it's a bitter, and Dave talks a lot about the bitters,
Yeah.
like bitter greens,
Hmm.
barley, all the kamut, all the greens like that, being the bitters. And that is what helps balance out your blood glucose levels, your blood sugar. And it really helps with diabetes, but it also really helps with addiction and cravings.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I did not realize until looking back how much it has balanced out my sugar cravings, because I have been for, 40 years, um, probably even more, because maybe I don't even remember when I was really little, just totally addicted to sweet things and things that turned into sugar, carbs, pasta, breads. And when I started using Purium in general, that definitely subsided, but adding the kamut basically just balanced everything out to such a beautiful degree. Um, yeah, and super aminos are just the best thing ever. I find that they're really grounding, especially in times like, when there's a lot of energy or I'm really exhausted. They are really grounding and nourishing for me, especially because I choose not to eat animals. And so it really helps me feel
Hmm.
balanced and um like vital even without that, because before, I've been a vegetarian for, gosh, almost 15 years, and sometimes I would feel depleted before,
Hmm.
and it has helped me immensely. The other thing I want to throw in is Biometic, because that is the only
Mm.
product in the world that has been proven to remove glyphosate from the system. So try one of these things. If you're really all in for trying something and you really need a big change, you really need a reset, try their ULT. I hope they'll change the name to it soon, the Ultimate Lifestyle Transformation. I just call it a nourishment experience, a total overall nourishment experience, gut health rebalancing, sleep, all the things. So if you want to go all in, I would suggest the ULT. If you want to just try something, try Super Meal or Kamut and get Biometic too, because we know we all have glyphosate in our system. Just try something and see how it feels, understanding and seeing it. And like when you're eating, so like moving forward now, like, okay, now when I'm eating, can I see the reflection of these foods, and can I choose foods that are reflecting the light and reflecting nature? So, an apple versus like the processed apple chips in the store, or a potato versus like potato chips. Like, can I eat things that are most reflective of nature and my own light? And then as I'm eating them and taking them into my body, can I feel the light, and can I feel the nature and the nourishment? And can I feel my nervous system going, ah, and you will if you try Super Meal. It's like this
Yeah, and I would say try drinking it standing barefoot in the grass, in the
Yes,
sun, even better.
that sounds amazing. I think I'll go do that. But try something, look online. They have so many products. Um, See what calls to you. If you're not sure, start with ULT or the Core 4 or one of the amazing products that we have mentioned. Try choosing things that are a reflection of your light, that are pure nature. Try growing more things. Try making arrangements with farmers who grow in a really kind, regenerative, organic way. If you live in a smaller place and they're not going through the trouble of getting it listed as like standard organic, just make sure they're doing organic like practices. It doesn't have to be labeled organic. You know, things that come from nature are just organic if we're not putting poison on them. So
Right.
be very mindful with your choices and be mindful of how this combination works, because then we can bring it even more power and even more light to understanding like, oh, this is serving my light and my nervous system and connecting me with nature. That will even up the ante of how it benefits you. So I love that.
Yeah, and the only thing I would tie in or add to that would be just the concept of body friendly, right? Like when our body is standing in nature and we get that relaxation and more of the grounding, right? It's growing our capacity to be present. So think about, is this food that I'm about to put in my body, is that going to give me the same reflection? Is that going to amplify what I'm already feeling in nature? Is it body friendly?
Yeah, perfect. And there's no perfection. Start where you are. So just start
Mm-hmm.
adding, start doing it with what you have, and then start adding in and making small changes. So instead of buying Reese's peanut butter cups, try like Evolve brand, or get a piece of dark chocolate and dip it in peanut butter. Instead of buying standard, buy organic. Instead of buying at the grocery store, try to find a local farmer. Just do what you can and make small changes over time.
Yeah. Yeah. Meeting your body and your nervous system where you're at in the moment is always a great place to be.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. This was really fun.
It was. Thank you for having me, Anna.
All right. Blessings.